Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining our May onX office hours class. We'll give it just a couple of minutes to let everybody get signed in and get situated. So while we're waiting, just a couple quick housekeeping items. If you do have any questions, that's kind of the whole point of this class. I don't have any agenda or any sort of lesson plan or anything. It's all directed by you, the audience. So any questions, please drop in the Q&A box. You can usually find that in the menu, should be towards the bottom of your screen. Q&A is a great spot for that. The chat is a little bit harder to monitor, so any questions that are put in the chat, I probably won't be able to get to. Chat's a good spot just to let us know where you're viewing from, you know, who you are. Hey, it's Joe from Iowa or wherever you're from. This class is being recorded. So if you do want to go back and watch it later or send it to somebody else, we'll send out an email. You'll get that tomorrow, about this time tomorrow. You'll get an email with the link to the YouTube video. You can go back and watch it as many times as you want and rewind and all that good stuff. Your audio and video, that's all turned off. So don't worry if you have noise in the background. We can't see you, we can't hear you. And finally, we are giving away some onX Hunt hats at the end of the class, so I'll post the giveaway link in the chat towards the end there. So stick around towards the end of the class for that giveaway opportunity. Besides that, I don't see any questions in there yet. If you do have some, please drop some in there. Otherwise, it's just going to be me kind of talking to myself here. So I see we got one in there. Is there a search for landowner option, or will there be one available? For example, I have sole permission from a landowner that has multiple tracts of land spread across multiple counties. Is there a way to search his name so that his tracts of land are highlighted? If not, can this be a possibility for the future? Can be used for public lands. So yes and no, Justin. You can search for a landowner name. I will pull up my map here so I can show this to you. Give me one moment to pull that up. So here's my onX Hunt map, Justin. I'm logged in on my computer. You can also do this on the website. So you're going to go up to this top left corner, click search, click private land, and from there you can search for the landowner. So I'm just going to do James Smith, just a generic name. You can see I get a bunch of different results for Smith James M, etc. The more information you can give the search, the better, because especially if it's a common name, if you know middle initial or something like that is better. And then from there, if I just click on this first parcel, it's going to zoom me over to that landowner. So that's the way to do it right now. We don't really have a way to say this person owns all of these different parcels. There's just not a great way when we get the data from the county to determine, these are all the same James Smith. There might be multiple. There's not really a great way to determine who is who. And sometimes landowners will have their properties in like an LLC or in a family partnership, things like that. So right now, your best option is to search, by the name, click on the parcel right there, and then you can drop a waypoint on that just by clicking this add waypoint button. That would be one way to mark the property. That's probably what I would do. The other thing you can do is you can kind of create a folder for each property that outlines each parcel automatically. So I'll show you what that looks like. So let's say this is the parcel I want. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to hit add to folder. I'm going to make a new folder here. And I'm going to just name it permission because I have permission on this spot. I'm going to hit save. And then now you can see it automatically drew a boundary around this parcel. It's kind of a funky looking parcel this person has here. And that would be another way to highlight all of the areas that you have access to. So we don't have a way, like you're saying, to say these are all the properties owned by this person. You do have to kind of do it manually, but hopefully that's helpful to you. hopefully in the future we'll be able to get the data and to be able to build something out where we can say, hey, these are all John Doe's properties that I have permission on, to automatically highlight them. It's just not an option at the present moment. Let's see, Lee asked, first time hunting elk this season in Montana, late season. Any suggestions on strategy to have a successful hunt? I'm going to assume late season means rifle season, late rifle season. We're talking November. It really depends where you're going to be. Are we talking eastern Montana, kind of out on the prairie? Are we talking western Montana, more in the mountains? I'm going to guess you're probably a general tag, which are more on the western side of the state in the mountains. I would definitely recommend, it's going to depend a lot on the weather, to be honest. It's going to depend a lot on where the snow is. Do we have a couple of feet of snow in the mountains in mid-late November? Do we have no snow? I've seen it both ways and everywhere in between. You're kind of hoping for some snow because those bulls are going to be in a sanctuary area. The bulls after the rut go off by themselves. They're typically not hanging around the cows. At least the mature bulls aren't going to be where the cows are. Cows are going to be where the best food is, almost without exception. As long as there's food and decent security, cows got to eat. Bulls, they want to be away from everybody. So they're going to kind of be in the thick and nasty stuff. They're going to be probably not hanging out by roads so much. They're going to be farther away from the trailheads, especially if it's a pretty well hunted unit. They're going to be in an area where they can be left alone, where they hopefully have some food close by and don't have to move very far from bedding to feed. So the hard part is they might not move a whole lot that time of year if they have everything right in close proximity. But the good part is if you find elk, good chance they're going to be in that area for a while. So I would say, let's say there's a bunch of snow, try to find areas where maybe it's a south-facing slope where there's a little bit less snow and there's some better feed. Maybe a wind-blown slope where the wind has blown some of the snow away so that they can get down to the grass a little bit easier. Those are difficult elk to hunt, especially in Montana, because the other thing that happens in Montana is a lot of times elk will go to private land. Partly because that's where the winter range is. A lot of our valley floors in Montana, most of them are private. And also we have long seasons in Montana. We got a 6-week archery season, a 5-week rifle season, and then I think it's like a 9-day or 10-day muzzleloader season after that. So they're hunted for quite a while. And if there's no hunting on a nice private ranch with some alfalfa, they might head down there. So the other thing would be, some guys will hunt the property lines sometimes. It's a risk, but sometimes you can get them moving back and forth from bed to feed that way. Let's see, Brian asked, I'd like to know the best way to shut down my turkey waypoints and use deer and vice versa, just so I'm not overwhelmed with waypoints. So Brian, this would be a case where I would use folders. I would put, and this is exactly what I do on my personal account. I put all of my turkey waypoints into a turkey folder. I put all of my deer waypoints into a deer folder. So right now, I'm hunting spring bears in western Montana. That's the only folder I have turned on. So I put all my bear icons into a folder, deer, elk, etc. So here's a deer folder that I made just on this test account. Okay, I have waypoints kind of all over the place. And if I want to just hide them, I can tap this button. So if I go over to Montana here so you can kind of see a little better, you'll see some waypoints right up here. I can turn them on and off just by hiding that folder. So put all of your turkey waypoints into a folder, put all of your deer waypoints into a folder, and then when you go into my content, which is over here, you can do this on mobile as well, you can just turn them off. Then when you need them back, like right now, if you want to turn off your turkey waypoints because you're done turkey hunting for the year, you can go hide them. And then next spring, when you're ready to turn them back on, you just toggle the switch there. Let's see, Chuck from Wyoming. Is there a way to show the hunt area on the map when I have it linked to my Android Auto in my Ram truck? I'm not entirely sure on the question, Chuck. If you're asking if there's a way to see the boundaries to your hunt areas in Wyoming while you have onX connected to Android Auto, yes, you can. So you just need to make sure you have that layer turned on your mobile device, on your phone. So have your Wyoming hunt areas layer turned on. Make sure you have, whether you want antelope or deer or elk or whatever unit, whatever area type you want, make sure that's selected in your sub layers. And then once you connect, any layers you have turned on your phone, they'll be shown on the head unit on your truck. So you just have to make sure it's turned on your phone, and then they should be showing for you through Android Auto on your pickup truck. All right, so there's a couple questions on TerrainX. One just asked to review TerrainX use, which we'll get to. And then Don asked, will TerrainX be made available on iPhones, iPads? That is the long-term plan, Don. We want to have it available across mobile devices and not just on the web map. I don't have a time frame for you on that, unfortunately. It is being worked on, but I haven't heard when they expect to have TerrainX available for mobile. But let's go back to Mark's question. He asked to review the TerrainX use, especially the glassing point. So here I am in onX. If I go over to my right here, I'm going to click this TerrainX button. It opens up a new menu. I do have to log in again to my test account. If I could spell it correctly, would be helpful. All right, now that's going to load up. So this is TerrainX. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see some of my waypoints that I had saved. So let's say I want to hunt this area. I think what Mark was asking about the glassing point, he was talking about this view shed feature. So with the view shed, once I click this button with the binoculars, I'm able to drag this little bullseye around, and it's going to show me everything I can see from that point. So if I wanted to say, hey, I want to drive up to this road, what can I really see from there? Whatever is blacked out or is darker, not going to be visible. So not great glassing here, right? If I move up here, still not super great. Maybe up here, I can see some stuff, right? So this is a tool. Let me see if I can find a better example for you. Maybe this is a spot I want to come and glass because I want to look up to the north there a little bit. So this is a cool tool that will show you based on topography what you can see from a given point. It does not take into account vegetation. We don't really have a way to solve that problem right now to know, hey, there's a wall of 40-foot trees in front of you. You can kind of take a look at, if you zoom in, I can see there's a bunch of trees there. I'm probably not going to be able to glass to the north very well. So still use the imagery to find that. But this is a big time saver if you're looking at, man, I want to glass this face, this north-facing slope, for example, but I don't know if I can see it from, this potential glassing point. You can pull it up on the map, and you can move this around, and it'll tell you whether or not you're able to see it, at least based on the topography and the slope there. While we're in TerrainX, just another couple of options for you if you want to really drill down. If you're looking to hunt certain elevation bands, if you know, maybe you've talked to a biologist and they say, you know, hey, you're hunting high country mule deer in September, they're going to be above a certain foot range. You know, we're not super high elevation here in Western Montana. We top out 7,000 feet, 6,000 feet most areas. But you can use this slider to get rid of some of the lower elevations. Conversely, if you know, hey, snow line is at 10,000 feet or 8,000 feet, you can move that down so that you don't go too high to where there's too much snow for you to hunt. So you can select by elevation bands. You can also do it by slope aspect. So if you only want to see, you know, north-facing slopes, south-facing slopes, you can select all of that. Super helpful for determining those for spring bear if you're looking for south-facing slopes, late season elk if you're looking for areas where they might be feeding those south slopes, early season elk if you're looking for bedding on the north side, you might just select those, right? You can also do, I'm just going to turn that off for now. You can also select by slope. So we know through research that elk don't like to bed on a slope that's more than, I believe it's like 20 degrees is what they've found. If they have the choice, they don't want to bed on stuff that's too steep. So I might say, only show me stuff that's from 0 to 20 degrees. And it blanks out a whole bunch of the map, right? Depending on where you are. If you're a flat area, it's not gonna black out as much of the map. But that's kind of the quick and dirty on TerrainX there. We are planning to do a specific class on TerrainX later on this summer into this fall where we'll spend a half hour, 45 minutes just going over TerrainX. So if you're interested in that, we don't have it scheduled yet, but keep your eyes peeled. Let's see, Ronald asked, what do you think is the best optic strength is for hunting out west, specifically New Mexico, getting geared up for my whitetail hunt in southwestern New Mexico? As far as binoculars, it's hard to beat 10 power. 10 by 42 binoculars, Ronald, is kind of the standard for most folks out west. You could go down to an 8, you're gonna get a better field of view, but you're not gonna be able to quite see as far. A 12 power, I've seen more guys going to 12 powers recently. They are a little bit harder to hold steady with your hands. So I'm not super steady with my hands when I'm glassing. So I run a 10 power, and sometimes even then, like when I'm spring bear hunting, a lot of times I still throw it on a tripod just so that I can get rock solid steady. Southwestern country, New Mexico, I've never hunted, you know, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, that kind of stuff. Western Montana here, I hunt some pretty thick stuff, so I don't need to go over 10. You might want to go up to 12s and take a look. I would recommend if you're buying from a local sporting goods store, see if they'll let you take some binoculars outside and just see how well you can hold them. Try a 10, try a 12, and see if there's a big difference. I would prioritize stability over extra magnification. If you got a really powerful magnification binocular, but you can't hold it steady, you're not going to find much. It's better to have a little bit less magnification and more stability. Someone asked, anything new coming up for Canadians? I don't know of anything specific in Canada. I know we are working to build out our land ownership map up there. That's kind of the priority as far as I know for Canada right now. It's a whole different ball game north of the border there to get land ownership information compared to in the States. In the States is, you know, we have different set of laws, different information regulations and things like that. So it's a little bit more difficult up north there, but that's kind of our focus right now. Let's see, Jesse asked, previous Zoom class asked about transferring data from my old Garmin with the chip to my iPhone. You indicated I could call you guys. I can't find a phone number. Sent an email. So our phone number, Jesse, is 406-540-1600. So that's how you can get I'm also going to type this in there, Jesse, so that you have it. So that is how you can get a hold of our customer support team. Anybody else, if you have questions, you can call that number 406-540-1600. You can also email us help@onxmaps.com. Again, that's help@onxmaps.com. And our customer support team will take care of you there. Next question. I just pulled onX up on my phone and the background is yellow-green. I haven't seen this before. You can't get rid of it. So that tells me it's most likely a layer you have turned on. Could be any number of layers that's causing this. My first recommendation, this goes for everyone, if you're ever looking at the map and you're not quite sure what something is, what's this coloration on my map, just click on it. So like I'm just going to click on my map here, and it's going to tell you if you have layers turned on, most of the layers will show up over here. So this one is telling me I have the government lands layer turned on, and that's Lolo National Forest. If you have a yellow-green, I'm going to take a guess that could be this turkey subspecies. If it's like this color, that would be like for the, if I get over here, maybe the eastern wild turkey. So that would be in the wildlife layers folder. Beyond that, I can't think of any off the top of my head that would be causing that. I would recommend go through your layers, go through this library here. Each folder will tell you how many you have turned on. Current conditions, I have 1 of 7, right? So you can just kind of toggle your layers off and on to see what's causing that coloration. Ron asked, does the program work differently / better on an iPad that has cell capability versus one that does not? So the app itself is going to work basically the same whether your iPad is cell capable or not. The thing you need to look out for though, Ron, is a lot of the non-cellular compatible iPads don't have a GPS chip or a GPS receiver in them. So some of those lower dollar, like Wi-Fi only iPads, they can run the app, but they don't have a GPS in them, so they can't show your location on the map. So you can still use it for e-scouting. You can still use it to mark waypoints and to, scout out an area or map out an area, but it won't be able to show your location. So if you're going to try to use it in the field, I would recommend going with a cellular capable iPad. A lot of those Wi-Fi only ones, like I said, no GPS receiver, they're not going to be able to show your location, and that's kind of half the point of the app, especially when you're out in the field. Let's see, Glenn asked, what are your suggestions to find maximum data on a specific hunt unit, such as Unit 2 or any of those in Kentucky? Are past harvest records available for units, or do I have to get that from the state wildlife agencies of each state? Good question, Glenn. Generally, you are going to have to get those from the state. In the past, some states, like Montana specifically, has sent us the harvest records for each unit. So you'd click on one and it would tell you how many elk were killed in a unit the previous year, how many deer. They no longer do that, unfortunately. And most states have never been able to provide us with that information. So your best bet is going to be to go to the state. A lot of times states will have that available just to download, or they may be able to email it to you. Dave asked, how can I see 3D in maps on my, how can I see maps in 3D on my Android phone? I'm going to pull up my mobile device here. So this is an iPhone, or excuse me, an iPad, but it's going to be very similar to how you pull it up on your Android phone. So first thing you're going to want to do, make sure that you're on the most updated version of the app. On an Android, you can go into the Google Play Store, search for onX Hunt, and it'll tell you whether you're on the updated version or not. If you're not, make sure you go ahead and update. You're going to want to do that for full functionality. Then to go into 3D, in the lower right-hand corner of my map, if you go all the way down to the bottom right, there's 2 buttons there. One looks like a crosshair, the other one says SAT in 2D. So that is my base map selector. So that tells me I am in the satellite map and I am in 2D. You see just to the right of where it says 2D, it says 3D. If I tap that, it puts me into 3D mode. And if I get out of the valley here and move over, you can start to see, that map in 3 dimensions there. So you do have to be online when you're doing this. It doesn't work offline at the present moment, but as long as you have internet service, again, all you do is you go into that base map button, that base map selector, and there you can toggle between them. Jacob asked, why would my location be off in the map? Lives in southern Indiana, hit the location button on the desktop and it takes me to central Indiana. So on your desktop, the location is sometimes determined by like your IP address and your internet provider. So it's not typically going to put you exactly where you are because most computers don't have a GPS chip in them. It's determined based off internet traffic. So that's the most likely reason why that's off, Jacob. I don't have a good fix for you just because onX has to take in whatever location information is coming from the device. So whatever information we can get from the device to show your location is what we're able to show on the map. So that's probably going to be like the nearest hub or something like that. Usually it's only like here in Missoula, I've had it sometimes put me a few blocks away or maybe a mile away just based on like the internet traffic. I don't know why it would be, halfway across the state like that, but it's not entirely out of the ordinary. The good news is on your desktop, you know where you are. So when you go out into the field on your mobile device, that's going to be much more accurate. And that's really where the location is most important to know when you're out in the field so you don't get lost. Jesse asked, do I get an email notice when my yearly subscription is expiring? Yes, you should get an email 30 days before your renewal. You can also check your renewal by going into your account. And it'll tell you right there, this elite membership expires May 16th, 2026 on my test account. So I got to that by tapping the hamburger menu in the top left corner. That's those 3 horizontal lines. Then tapping my account, and it'll tell you when your membership expires there as well. Let's see. Robert asks, he's talking about scent control when hunting. Removing hunting clothes, cook in one tent, sleep in another tent, use spray, non-scented soaps, effects of fire, smoke. Western hunting, Robert, I don't really worry about the scent on my body. I do use like a scent-free soap, basically because I figure I'm going to shower anyways. Might as well use scent-free. Does it make a big difference? I don't think so. If you're hiking around elk hunting, you're going to be sweating almost no matter what, unless you're one of those, people that just doesn't sweat. But you're still going to be generating scent no matter what. You can't spray enough stuff to stop your scent. You got to hunt the wind. Do sprays and non-scented soaps and all of that stuff have an effect? I think it might, but probably not. Sometimes it's probably not enough in the backcountry to warrant the trouble. Whitetail deer hunting in a tree stand out of a camp, totally different ballgame. There, you take the advantages you can get, and if you're putting all your stuff into a tote, you're using ozone to kill the scent, and you're using sprays and rubber boots and all that, is it going to stop a deer from smelling you? No. Is it going to maybe make that deer think you're further away than you are, or maybe give it a little bit of pause where it doesn't immediately know you're a human? maybe in that 5 to 10% advantage might be enough for you to get a shot off or something like that. For Western hunting, I honestly don't think it makes that big of a difference. You've got to just play the wind. That's the biggest thing. Let's see. Benjamin asks, is there anything in the works to add on a layer from one onX app to another, say Backcountry to the Hunt app? Not at this time, Benjamin. Our 3 apps, Hunt, Backcountry, Off-Road, are separate apps for kind of separate pursuits. If there is something from Backcountry you'd really like to see in Hunt, you think it has an application for hunters, definitely let us know. That's some stuff that we trade between the apps sometimes, like the slope angle layer that's in the Hunt app originated in Backcountry because of avalanche conditions. And we said, hey, that might be useful for folks to determine, find those benchy areas or find saddles and things like that. So that has been done. I can't say of any specific changes that are coming up, but if you do have a suggestion of, hey, this is a feature of Backcountry I'd really love to see in Hunt, shoot us an email to help@onxmaps.com and we'll pass that along to the development folks. Let's see, question about broadhead of choice for elk, total arrow weight. Personally, this might be controversial, I shoot an expandable broadhead. I shoot a Sever broadhead. We have no affiliation with them as a business. That's just what I've found works for me. I've killed 2 elk, gotten pass-throughs on both, but I am a bigger guy with a longer draw length. So I have a 30.5-inch draw length and I'm shooting, I think my arrow's about 525 grains. So it's got some weight behind it. I know a lot of folks will say, never shoot an expandable at an elk, because if you hit the shoulder bone, it's not going to go through. And I don't disagree with that. I think a well-built, if we're talking like an Iron Will broadhead, some guys at work shoot and really like, or Day 6, Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear, some of those pretty burly, cut on contact, one-piece broadheads will absolutely work for you. I do like an expandable. Personally, because I have that weight behind me, I can kind of get away with stuff you might not be able to get away with if you have a shorter draw length. And I will say my first elk ever was a bit of a marginal shot. Shot a raghorn bull a little far back. Luckily, it was quartering enough that it exited well into the lungs. But I like having that bigger cutting diameter if you do miss a little bit farther back. Personally, myself, I tend to shoot a little bit farther back than I do farther forward. So I'm more worried about hitting guts than I am hitting shoulder blade. Of course, we all strive to hit right in that golden triangle, kind of right on the money. Doesn't always work that way. So I would say for elk, I tend to go a little bit heavier on arrow. I don't want to go so heavy that I have big gaps between my pins, because especially if I'm hunting solo and I range an elk, all right, he's at 30, and then he takes a few steps, and I don't really have time to range, or maybe I'm already at full draw and he's walking. If I've got to kind of pin gap that, I don't want to have a huge gap in between. I don't want a 650, 700 grain arrow necessarily. You also don't want to be shooting something super light that's not going to get through. So got to kind of find that middle ground. That's a little bit different for everybody, but that's what I personally shoot. Might work for you, might not. John asks, can I get private landowner info on onX? Yes, John, that is our bread and butter. So that is kind of where the company started. So private land ownership information. I'm going to get back to my map here. I'm going to go back into 2D. So if I zoom in on my map here, you can see all of these orange lines are showing private parcels. And you can see the name in there. To turn on private lands, I'm going to back up. I went too fast there. In the lower left-hand corner of my map, there's a button that says Hunt Map Layers. I'm going to tap on that. That's going to pull up my layer menu, and it's going to show my different layer folders. Right now, I have 2 states turned on, Iowa and Montana. In Montana, I have the private lands layer. That can be turned off and on. So if you're not seeing private lands and you have a paid membership, John, make sure you have the private lands layer for your state. If you don't have any states shown up here, like if it just looks like current conditions, land and access, etc., and there's no Iowa, Montana, whatever, scroll down. That's where all of the states live. So with an elite membership, you can turn on as many as you want. With a premium membership, you can have either a 1-state or a 2-state membership. And so with the 1-state, you can have 1 state turned on, 2-state, you can have 2 states. It is possible to turn them all off. So in that case, you would just want to go down, I'm gonna go to Montana again and turn it back on. I just tapped that button. It moves up to the top there. Then I can turn on the layers that I had turned on before, and I'm good to go. So to get the private land ownership information, John, you just have to have the private lands layer for your state turned on. Don asked, when I'm looking at my Montana hunting area while at home in Pennsylvania and I click on compass mode, the map changes to Pennsylvania instead of saying in Montana. What am I doing wrong? So Don, the compass mode is designed as an in-field feature to help you navigate and to help you pinpoint areas in the field. So if I get the map back to my location here at the onX headquarters, I'm going to go into compass mode. So for those of you watching that haven't used compass mode yet, I'm going to tap my location button one more time. You see my map kind of rotates here. And in the lower right-hand corner, there's now a button that looks like a compass. I'm going to tap on that compass. So this allows me to kind of see what's ahead of me. It allows me, as I rotate the map, to take a compass heading. It also allows me to mark a distant waypoint. So I can point my phone at, say, an elk that I want to mark on the map. I've ranged it with my rangefinder. I know it's 616 yards. I can place a waypoint there. So that's what compass mode is designed for, Don. It's not really an e-scouting tool. It's more of an in-the-field type tool. So when you click on it, it is going to move the map back to your location. Pablo asked, will the hunt planning tool, specifically the draw odds, ever show other species other than the ones being currently shown? Yes, Pablo. This is the first year we've kind of come out with our own draw odds in our hunt research tools. So this was the first year we kind of took a big picture look at things at, what are the big ticket items that people are applying for, your elk, your deer, your sheep, moose, goat, antelope, etc. I know we do want to expand that. There's some states in there that we didn't get in this year. We want to have in, so we want to add additional states. And there are plans to add additional draw odds, we do have like the antlerless hunts in there, but to build that out a little more. I can't say for sure when, but even some of those like, turkey, states that have turkey draws and some of those maybe less popular draws, we do want to add those in. I don't have an ETA for you at this time, Pablo, but that is in the works. We do plan on adding more information as we go. Let's see. Could you do a demo scout of somewhere in Saskatchewan? I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that today in this class. That's a bit beyond the scope of this class. And it would have to depend on what we're scouting for in Saskatchewan. Are we scouting for deer? Are we scouting for waterfowl, bears? But that might be something we can do in the future, do like a regional scouting specific courses. That's actually a good idea that I'm going to write down and see if we can do, scouting for X in certain areas. That'd be a cool idea. Let's see. Gail asked, can I transfer data from my Gaia app to onX? I haven't personally used Gaia, so I can't say for sure, but I believe if they have an export feature where you can export your content, you can do that. That is a feature in onX where you can export your content, like create a backup on your computer. So you would need to export your data from Gaia or whatever other app you're using, and then you can go into onX. The easiest way to do that is on the web map. You can go in and import that file, and that will bring all of those waypoints and lines and whatever else you have into the onX app. So yes, you can. Mark asked, are Wyoming elk zones going to stay north, south, east, west? So I think right now there's just 3 Wyoming, like the non-resident regions that they split up this year for the general tag. Your guess is as good as mine, Mark. I would guess, this is the first year of it. They're probably going to stick with that for a while. I doubt they would go back to the old way of where your general tag is good for general units statewide, but that's probably up to the Wyoming Game and Fish and their game commission. Your guess would be as good as mine. Art asked, is the Android version going to be available for CarPlay soon? It's available right now, Art. So Android Auto is live. Again, like I mentioned earlier, make sure you're on the most updated version of the app. That is critical. Make sure you have the most updated version. Then when you connect your phone to your car, a lot of times you do have to plug it in for a lot of head units. You should see onX show up there in your available apps, and you should be good to go. Let's see, John asked, but I can't get phone numbers or emails. I think you're talking about an earlier question. I think John was the one who asked about private land ownership information. Emails, there's no data source that has people's emails. I don't think there's any source out there where you could find my personal email address, for example. As far as phone numbers, John, we don't include phone numbers in the app out of respect for landowners. You can imagine if you were a landowner that owns some prime hunting land, you're probably already getting a bunch of calls in the summer and fall. If we put the phone number in there, you can imagine how many they would be getting. I remember seeing an interview with a rancher in Montana, I think from the Bozeman area, and says he gets dozens of calls a day during elk season. And he's got a job, he's a rancher, so he doesn't have time to answer those. It would be super nice to have landowner phone numbers in there for seeking hunting permission, absolutely. We just don't have them at this time, just kind of out of respect for landowners that they're not getting a ton of different phone calls. What you can do is send letters. That goes a long way kind of in our digital age. If you send somebody a letter, a handwritten or a typed out letter asking for permission. I've also done Google searches. If you find somebody's name, Google search, you can sometimes turn up a phone number or use the phone book, use the white pages. That's becoming harder and harder in the day of cell phones, but a lot of people do still have landlines and have their phone number listed there. See, Mark from New York asked to go over offline maps. Yes, let me pull that back up on my tablet here. So offline maps are a key part of the onX Hunt app. That's how you're able to use it when you don't have service. So let me close out of this here, get back to square one. So let's say I was going to go up, let's just say I was going to go for a hike in Glacier National Park and I want to use onX to navigate. No hunting up there, of course, but maybe I just want to go for a hike and want to use onX so I don't get lost. I'm going to move my map up to the area I want to go to. Then in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a button that says Offline Maps. I'm going to tap on that. That's going to pull up this Offline Maps menu. I'm going to tap the button that says New Map. That's going to go to this screen where I have a red box. Whatever is within this red box is what is going to be saved for offline use. So I can still move this around, okay? So I can cover the area I want to have covered. I can choose my map detail down below. I can go high detail. That's going to be a smaller map, better imagery resolution. I can go medium. I can go low. That's going to be a big map, but the imagery resolution is not quite as crisp. For most instances, I use the medium map. That gives me a good combination of a big enough map that's usable while also having pretty good imagery resolution. If you have like a hunt club or a deer hunting camp or something like that, and you're kind of in one area and you're not going to be moving, then I use the high one. So like when I go back to my family deer camp in northern Minnesota, we have our stand set, camp is set. We're not driving all over, hiking all over like I might be in Montana when I'm hunting. Then I use the high resolution. Otherwise, most of the time I recommend the medium. I can rename the map. I recommend doing that because once you save a bunch of them, you want to be able to make sense of where you have maps and where each one is. So I'm just going to name this one Glacier for this test. Then I'm going to hit save. That's going to download. You can see it chugging away along the bottom of my screen there. Once it's saved, you're good to go. When you go out in the field, if you don't have any service, I would put my phone into airplane mode. That's going to save your battery quite a bit. Then that's going to put your app into offline mode. You'll be able to see everything that's within that box. You can save multiple. All these green boxes that you see here are maps that I have saved. So if you need a bigger area, you can put them together like these here. You're still able to mark waypoints. You're able to track yourself. You're able to see your location there. And as long as you have the map saved, you have all of the imagery, the topography, and the land ownership information, all those layers. Let's see. Robert asked, do you do or know of a good tutorial on how to cape out an elk deer for your taxidermist/pack out? There's a lot of good resources on YouTube, Robert. I would look up, there's videos on how to cape out, deer, elk, even antelope are all pretty similar. Antelope's a little different with their horns, but all basically the same. Most of the time you're gonna do, a dorsal cut along the back of the neck, go all the way down kind of the spine, try to keep it straight. You're gonna do cuts off that to the antlers so that you can start peeling that away. Don't cut the hide if you can around like the base of the antlers. If you can use like a screwdriver to pry it away, that kind of preserves that seam where it meets up with the antlers and looks better once they put it together. So I would recommend, go on YouTube, search out, there's a bunch of different videos. I think Born and Raised Outdoors has done some. I'm not sure. I know Meat Eater did a bear one. I don't know if they have, deer and elk on theirs. And then best rule of thumb I can give you, leave the taxidermist enough hide to work with. So leave a bigger chunk of hide for them. They can always trim it down. They can't add it back. The other thing you can do is some taxidermists will, they'll take your call, say, hey, can I come in and have you show me, what to do or how to do this, or have you just walk me through it? Some taxidermists will be really good because that's going to save them work in the long run too. They want to make sure you're doing the right thing. So if you have a taxidermist or one nearby, it might be worth giving them a call and say, hey, do you have any resources, or can we just talk on the phone so I can pick your brain? Let's see, what time are we at here? We got about 10 minutes left. I probably won't be able to get to every question remaining, but we'll do as many as we can. Someone asked, how accurate is the wind calendar? So the wind calendar is pretty accurate. So if I pull up, I don't know if I have any. I'm going to set wind on this waypoint here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to set wind on this one as well. So that I've got a couple of them. So I'm going to go into my wind calendar. It's going to take a few minutes to load up. So let's say I want to go hunting tomorrow. I want to see what the wind is doing at these waypoints at certain times. So this is going to give you sunrise, midday, sunset, give you a good idea of what the wind is likely to be doing. Our model here for the wind calendar does take into effect topography. So it will try to take into effect, if you're in the mountains, what the wind is going to be doing around those different features. It's not perfect, right? Nothing can be 100% perfect unless there's a weather station at that spot. But it's going to be pretty close. I was incredulous when we came out with this. I'm like, man, is it really going to know what the wind is doing at a random spot out in the mountains where I'm hunting? And I was out there, it was an all-day hunt, and the wind was supposed to switch around midday from kind of a northwest to more of a southwest wind. And by God, it got to be about 10 o'clock, 10:30, and the wind switched. You know, is it going to be exactly 11 miles an hour? Maybe, right? It's close. So I would say wind calendar, you don't necessarily bet the farm on it. It's going to give you a good idea of what the wind's going to be doing at an area, though. So it is pretty reliable. Hope that answers your question there. Dave asked, is there a practical application for an interface between an inReach and onX? Not really, Dave. There's no compatibility between a Garmin inReach and the onX Hunt app. They are, we're separate companies. They are separate systems. What you can do if you're out of service and you want to send a location to somebody, say you have a hunting buddy, you split up for the day, you've got an animal down, you need help packing, you can send them coordinates via inReach. So what you can do, we'll use this bear waypoint just as a placeholder. I can tap on that waypoint and you see in the menu there it says coordinates. I can tap copy those coordinates, and then go into my inReach, into that app, the messaging app, and paste those coordinates in there. Say, hey, need help packing, meet here. And email them or text them the coordinates through your inReach. They can then pull those coordinates from their inReach, put them into their onX, and have the waypoint there. That's the best workaround we've found for sending locations to each other when you don't have service. I'm going to, real quick here, I'm going to post the giveaway link in the chat. So like I said, we're giving away some onX Hunt hats. All we ask for is your name, your email, and your shipping address, and we'll draw the winners of those a bit later on today and get those hats shipped out this week. I'm losing my voice. I'm going to take a sip of water. All right. Got a few minutes left here. Let's see what kind of questions we have. Matt asked, I have a Garmin 67i, currently have an Elite membership. Do I need to buy the onX chip in order to use the app on my Garmin device? So with that specific device, Matt, there is no compatibility with onX. A few years ago, Garmin made some changes to how their devices work, some of the firmware that made them not compatible with onX chips. And we actually are kind of in the tail end of sunsetting the onX chip. That product is no longer going to exist moving forward, or we're not making any new ones. So that product is going away, Matt. So as far as a solution for your Garmin device, I know they offer some maps and some different information. That's probably your best bet there. Otherwise, use onX on your phone. That's what I do. I've never used, aside from my dog, collar, I've never used a standalone GPS when I'm out hunting. I use the mobile app, and it's with those offline maps, it's worked just fine for me. So probably not the answer you were looking for, Matt. I'm sorry, but that's kind of the state of things as they are. We just don't have chips that are compatible with those newer Garmin devices. Anyone that ends in I is not going to work. Let's see. On my phone, it appears that my compass in my app doesn't always read correctly. Any idea what could be causing this? Good question, William. Most obvious thing, check to see if there's any magnets nearby. If you have a phone case that has magnets, like I have this all-in phone adapter for my spotting scope, it has a magnet in here. I haven't noticed it causing any issues, but that is always a potential with any compass. Magnets, ferrous metal could cause issues. The other thing that sometimes happens is the compass in your phone needs to be calibrated. You can go into your settings. It's kind of a lot of clicks. So I would just Google iPhone compass calibration. It'll walk you through. It's like 5 or 6 different things you have to click on, William, to calibrate your compass. The other thing I do is double check the compass app on your phone. Each new iPhone, when you get it, has a compass app, a standalone app, and that will match what onX is showing. So if you're like, man, my onX compass is off, pull up your iPhone compass, that's that standalone compass app, and that will tell you if something's off with your compass in your phone. Anytime I've noticed my compass is not quite right on onX, I pull up my iPhone compass and they're mirroring. Because the onX app just pulls that information from your phone. So if it's giving us faulty information, that's what's going to be shown in the app. So that's a long-winded way of saying double check you don't have magnets nearby, even magnets in a bino harness. I've heard of that affecting it for some people. And then do that compass calibration. That's what's going to give you, that should sort it out most of the time, doing that calibration. Let's see. Scott asked, is there an easy way to share my full waypoint list with my hunting buddy, or do I have to share one by one? So Scott, there's a couple ways you can do that. I mentioned earlier using folders for your waypoints. In my mind, that's the easiest way to share a bunch of waypoints. You can put the waypoints you want to share into a folder, and then you can go into your content, open up that folder, and you can share that entire folder with somebody. That's the easiest way, in my opinion, to do that. You can also, let me pull up my map one more time. You can also do it kind of manually, would be the best way to describe it. If you don't want to put them into folders, I can tap on a waypoint, I can hit share, and I can share that way. That would be one by one. The other thing I can do, I can go into my content. So I just opened up the my content menu along the bottom. I can tap select, and now I can tap on these waypoints. So notice as I tap on them, they have a white highlight. So I have 3 of them selected right now. Then I can hit share, and that would send those 3 as well. Personally, I think it's easier just to group stuff into folders and then send a folder, but to each their own. More than one way to skin a cat, so whatever works for you. Let's see, Lyle asked, I just pulled up onX showing deer stands on my son's land. Suddenly, stands are showing up that are off his property on a landowner's land and not where the stand is physically located. Do you have any answers for this, please? Tough to say exactly what happened there, Lyle. What we see most often when a waypoint has moved is a lot of times it's user error. I'm not saying that's for sure what happened here. This is just what we see most often. So I've tapped on this waypoint. I've labeled it bear scat. If I hit edit, like I'm going to change the color or change the name, it's easy to accidentally tap on my map and for that waypoint to get moved. So that's what we see most often. So you can see that one has moved now. Without being able to look at the actual device and to kind of dig into things, I can't say for sure why that might have happened. What I just demonstrated there is the most common reason we see. Otherwise, if you think there's like a bug or something software-wise going on, shoot us an email. Again, help@onxmaps.com. And our customer support team has some access to some diagnostic tools that I don't have access to. They'll be able to dig in and see if something went wonky there and see what's going on. All right, we are at time. I apologize, we didn't get to every question, but hopefully this was helpful to everybody. Go ahead and enter that giveaway. If you haven't already, go ahead and make sure you click on that link and get entered. We'll draw those winners here a little bit later on this afternoon. I'll shoot you an email if you won, and then we'll get your hat sent out. And do also check out our future classes. We're kind of slowing down a little bit early summer. We're kind of in that lull hunting wise. We're doing monthly 101s. We have one Thursday. So if you're like, man, some of this stuff was above my head, I want just a basic tutorial. This Thursday, we're doing an onX Hunt 101 where we show you kind of from the beginning how to get set up and kind of the basic functions of the app to help you get running. We also do these office hours on about a monthly basis as well. And of course, if you have a topic you'd like to see us cover, whether it's scouting for pronghorn or how to call in elk or whatever you want to see, let us know. We're always open to suggestions. We're always looking for a way to make educational content that you guys find useful. And with that, before I lose my voice anymore, I'll say good day to everybody, and thanks for joining, and hope to see you on a future class.